Good morning.
Hi. Hi, everyone. We'll start in a couple of minutes. Just let people in.
How many people are we expecting?
This is really difficult to foresee, actually. We don't really know. But I think we can start, if I guess that many will join just afterwards. 10 o'clock is probably still early for some of us. So welcome to everyone on behalf of the European Commission and the OECD. It's a pleasure for us, the OECD and the European Commission team, to start a new year of the YEPA, the Youth Entrepreneurship Policy Academy, that was launched in March 2023, that will last until 2025. We will have a big closing in-person event at the end with nice topics. But now we're having regularly webinars on different issues, and the one for today is role models. That was a bit of a surprise for me, but I'm very glad to hear about that and to learn more. I know it's not your group, but tomorrow we'll have another webinar on artificial intelligence and youth entrepreneurship, and next week about the importance of networking and networks for young entrepreneurs. But for today, it will be role models. DEC and the OECD really, well, first, the labor market are functioning more or less okay currently in the EU, but we still see quite a lot of unemployment among young people, or young people having employment but not really happy in it. So that's why we want to facilitate young people to set up their own business, to pursue their dreams. It fails or it succeeds. That's the story. It's not my story, but it will be yours. And that's why we have created the YEPA. After this warm welcoming, I now directly pass the floor to my colleague from the OECD, Jonathan Potter. Over to you, John.
Good morning, everybody. Great that you're here. Nice to see you all again. Welcome to the event. So this is the fourth workshop in the series. You'll remember that there are 6 online workshops, and then there'll be another in-person event next year. So the topic that you chose for today is role models for young entrepreneurs. That's what you picked in the voting last spring. A good choice. It's an important issue. Role models are one of the tools that we have for fostering positive attitudes towards entrepreneurs and building motivations for entrepreneurship. So, this is about building the pipeline of youth who are ready to go into entrepreneurship and have positive views about it. So the agenda, we've got a mix of interviews, we've got panel discussions, presentations, and some group discussions for you to get involved. And we're aiming to explore and answer certain questions. and you will have seen them in the discussion note and elsewhere. Firstly, who are the entrepreneurship role models for young people today? So, you know, and which of them have the greatest effect? Is it parents, teachers, local entrepreneurs, celebrity entrepreneurs? So that's a really key question. Second, how are young people exposed to the role models? What effects does this have? Thirdly, how can policymakers, how can the youth entrepreneurship support schemes make better use of role models? And fourthly, how can we measure the impact of role models on young entrepreneurs? So that's the schedule for today, what we want to get into with everybody. Now, just more broadly, there's some news to share about upcoming and recent YEPA activities. There's a new paper on youth entrepreneurship policy. It's up on our YEPA website. It was prepared by Professor Rob Blackburn at the University of Liverpool. It was based on a series of international workshops OECD participated in and hosted workshops on this as well. So we were very much in with him. And the paper looks at the current state of youth entrepreneurship policy and suggests future directions for governments. So have a look at the Blackburn paper. Then you should have seen some email invitations about YEPA side events. So these side events, they're bonus activities. They're not part of the regular program. So you can join them if you want to, but it's not, you know, part of the commitment to YEPA. We had a really good webinar on youth entrepreneurship in Croatia yesterday. And I think a lot of us could have learned from that one. There's an upcoming event in Austria in Vienna. So you would have to go to Vienna on the 13th, 14th of November, but you're welcome to attend. The YEPA participants in Sweden have a meeting of Swedish entrepreneurship, youth entrepreneurship stakeholders next week. We can tell you about that. If any of you are interested in organizing side events or meetings in your country, we're happy to explore how we could support you in that. So what you would do is get in touch with David Halabisky and Helen Szymanski about that. And finally, we're organizing an event with the OECD Committee on SMEs and Entrepreneurship on the 6th of November on women entrepreneurs and supply chains. So we'll be sending out details of that, and you are welcome to attend that as well, even though it's not youth, it's women this time. And I close by thanking you all for your engagement with YEPA. It's really good that you're coming and taking this opportunity to use your connections that you're making and take the discussions back to your countries to disseminate the knowledge and the lessons. And we're really grateful to you for engaging with your wider group of stakeholders. So get in touch with us if you have ideas or suggestions for YEPA, including anything that you think we could help you with in your country. So I hand back the floor. Thanks.
All right, good morning. I will quickly introduce our co-host today. You might recall that we've got a co-host who has a bit of a role in shaping the event, and the co-host today is Junior Achievement Estonia. So over to Kirsty for a quick word to get us going.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. Good morning, everyone. I'm representing here Junior Achievement Estonia today, and Junior Achievement is a worldwide NGO preparing young people for future success in global economy. We provide hands-on immersive learning in entrepreneurship, in financial health, and work readiness. So in Estonia, we had last year 14,000 young people studying according to our programs from 1st till 12th grade, and also in vocational institutions. And so we deal with very young and young people. So those attitudes and values are not set yet. And so we have an opportunity and also responsibility to change their attitudes and change their lives, maybe even. So we take it very seriously, and here also the role models come into play. So in younger ages, we want to cultivate a positive attitude towards entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs, and also to get these young children to know the local entrepreneurs in their neighborhood, and to understand that these are the people who create value, who solve problems, and actually make the life better for everyone in their neighborhood and community. And we also want these young children already to take initiative and take responsibility that they themselves can change something and do something for their community. Later on, our main program is company program. It's really learning by doing. So the students go through the entrepreneurship process during one school year, and here the role models play very important roles. Mentors give specific advice in specific topics or questions they might encounter during their journey. But also the alumni and other entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs who inspire to achieve more, to go to entrepreneurship. But what I personally, and we all are seeing in our programs, that to inspire and encourage young people to start their own company, the student company, and try out how entrepreneurship looks like are the graduates from last year who just graduated, got this experience, and they are so excited about it and can inspire also the younger ones to start with that. So the role models can play different roles and come from different places. And I think today's topic is very interesting, and so I look forward for your insights and thoughts about these topics very much. So thank you for sharing your thoughts. So
thank you very much. We are also looking forward to this event very much. Now, everybody should have seen the agenda, and I'll just give you a very brief overview so that everybody knows what's happening today. Now, the first session is going to be an interview with an entrepreneur, a young entrepreneur, and we're going to be talking with Yasha, and he's going to give us his perspective on role models and how they've affected him, both positively and negatively. And so we can draw lessons from his experience and pick these themes up as we go through the session today. That will be followed by a panel discussion. And on the panel, we've got a range of different young people who are involved in different organizations that actually go out and identify role models and work with role models to help promote entrepreneurship to other young people. And then we're going to have a short break, and then we will come back with a presentation from Professor Hiti, who is a researcher and has done some work in this area, so she can tell us about her work and her findings, and we can use those lessons as we're thinking about how we use role models to help influence the views and attitudes of young people towards entrepreneurship. And then the last session will be some breakout discussions where we can get into smaller groups and dig a little deeper into the experiences of each of us and how we see role models and our ideas for how they could be used more effectively, particularly in a context where everything is moving online and everything's moving very quickly, and young people interact with media and with other people much differently than even when I was a young adult. So we'll dig into these issues and look at the questions that John raised at the beginning. And let's get into it right now. So I will invite Yasha onto the screen to take the floor with me. And why don't we start with a quick introduction? So rather than me introducing you, why don't you tell us about yourself and your business?
Hello, everyone. Like David already said, my name is Yasha. I'm coming from Germany. And I actually co-founded a company, a social business called White Plastic 5 years ago. And what we actually do is that we are working together with partners who are collecting plastic from the environment. And then we are developing products out of like these plastics that these partners were collecting from the environment, make products out of it and sell them. And actually, we are focusing on plastics who are not collected as much as others. So actually the stuff that's laying around and nobody wants to have. And we are developing products to give it a market and to increase the amount of plastic that's collected from the environment and is brought back into the recycling circle. And actually, one product that we are, for example, doing is bin liners. And yeah, we give them a fancy design and to make it attractive to buy trash, actually. That's what we're doing.
Well, that sounds great. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the spark that you had? How did you get into this?
Actually, it was a lot of coincidences. So actually my entrepreneurial journey started at around like 2014, something like this. And I always saw a lot of problems everywhere and wanted to find solutions. And so I got into this field, like participated in like youth competitions for entrepreneurship while school. And yes, after school, there was also the problem that, I didn't want to study and I wanted to go into entrepreneurship. So I got into contact with a lot of people, and then with a coincidence, I found the founding team of Wild Plastic, and the thing that was like brought us together is the problem of plastic in the environment. So we came together all with the need to do something against it. And this is actually the way I got into entrepreneurship with Wild Plastic, and more broad with all these youth competitions. But also like 2014 was this time when all these documentaries about Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and so on went viral in Germany. So there was also a little bit of inspiration by the role models, actually.
Well, let's dig a little deeper into that, since role models is the topic of today. If you think back to 2014, around that time when you were just getting into the competitions, what was your influence? Was it the people involved in the competition? How did you identify the competitions? And what role did these other entrepreneurs that you mentioned, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, the really big famous ones, how did those influence you?
So actually, I think my environment, especially the personal one, was not really encouraging. So I was like the one that always saw problems and wanted to find solutions. And actually, what these like kind of role models or these very famous entrepreneurs did was they gave me the perspective that a business can actually solve problems. And this was like my step into the entrepreneurship, because I was realizing, okay, this is a tool that I can use to solve problems. And then like another coincidence happened, because one teacher at my school actually introduced a class where you participate in one of these entrepreneurship competitions, and this was kind of an experiment of her. And my brother took place 2 years before I took part in it. And actually, it was my motivation to be better than him. So I took one of the problems that I saw and made a business idea out of it with my team. And then we participated quite successfully. And this was this was the moving point kind of, and never went out of the scene since then.
I think that's a really good point, because if you look at the research, it tends to show that people in your household have a very strong influence on you. Most of the research focuses on the parents, and if the parents are entrepreneurs, it's much more likely that their children will be. But in your case, you identified your brother as inspiration, even though it was a bit of a competitive sense. What about the schools, the teachers? I mean, you mentioned this experimental class. How was that run? Was the teacher someone that was also very enthusiastic and that helped get you into it, or did they have guest speakers coming in, other entrepreneurs?
Actually, I would say my teacher was like she had energy with it. She had some seminars on it, but it was not like that she was really into entrepreneurship. I mean, she's a teacher, nothing against teachers, but they are usually not the risk takers that encourage you, go into entrepreneurship and found a company. So actually, I think for her, it was more like a, like I said, this experiment to just give new perspectives to her students. And I think this is a really great thing that she did it, because I don't think there was any other teacher in the whole school who would have done anything like that. So actually it was not very inspiring in the sense of how to build up a business and how to find an idea, but to have this energy of, okay, you can do something different. And actually this was quite a nice thing. But I also have to say, I come from a really rural area. There's not too much entrepreneurship, and also the entrepreneurs are not that inspiring, I would say. It's not like that they are these fine, shiny figures that everyone knows and is inspired by. It's more like, okay, not too many entrepreneurs. There's not too much entrepreneurial spirit. So kind of these role models on a higher level, on the country level, and also on the international, were kind of needed to get the inspiration, because there was kind of no one else there. And also these competitions we took part in were also using the higher level role models to get inspiration, because a lot of schools and a lot of areas have this problem that they just don't have anyone that you think, okay, this person's so inspiring for me to found a business or something like this.
So that's great. So you've talked about your early days in entrepreneurship, and you've already identified quite a range of different role models that influenced you in different ways. Your brother, the teacher, local entrepreneurs, maybe not so much, but also the well-known international ones. I mean, now we're 10 years later and you're still involved in entrepreneurship. Do you still look for role models, but in a different way, for different reasons? Do you look for role models to help you if you're thinking about continuing or growing your activity, or maybe doing something else, new activities? I don't know. Just thinking 10 years into your journey, do you still see a need for role models?
I think I need to differentiate between the part that role models play for myself and the general need for them, because actually I'm way more critical about role models and these really shiny figures that you see and that are really, really famous, because they are nice door openers. They give you the inspiration, like you said. They give you this kind of spark that can that can turn into a fire, and also get the stone moving kind of. But actually, in my experience, it was the more I got information about all these entrepreneurs, the more like also the problematic stuff came into being, and also with other people who were inspired, I saw a lot of times that they were kind of limited by the role models because they only saw, I want to be like this role model. And I think at some point you have to switch from role model to mentor, because like I said, role models are great to give you this, like this spark, but I think for the rest it's kind of, it can limit you a lot, because when you want to be like another person, it limits your creativity. So I kind of moved to mentors, because they can help me with my personal challenges. They are way more personal. I can talk to them, and also they can be very inspiring. And for example, I have one mentor for like 8 years now, like probably right from the beginning, like 2015, 16, we got into contact. And it's really interesting because also it's a other relationship, because it's not only one-sided. I also like can inspire him, he can inspire me. So it's a real other like dynamic, and I really like that. At the same time, yeah, sorry.
No, continue, please go.
And at the same time, the other side of this is that I still think that role models are needed, because there are a lot of people like me coming from rural areas, and also when you're not coming from a rural area, you just need someone who opens the door for you, that you think, for example, entrepreneurship is a good way to solve problems, for example, and also that show it is possible, even like not looking too much into the background, but like everyone can do it. Of course, not everyone can do it, but everyone can start and try it. And so I think this is where role models are really good for.
I think you've raised a number of really good points. And one of the takeaways that I get from what you just said is, there's a need for diversity of role models. And that by that, I mean different types of activities, different types of people, different ambition levels. There's rural urban issues. So there's perhaps a pitfall of always showing extremely successful entrepreneurs, because it's not necessarily feasible for everybody to attain ultra high levels of success. And we want to inspire people, show them a range of different activities, and that could perhaps avoid, as you highlighted, sort of the copycat approach. I just have a couple of quick questions, and I'll see if the floor has any questions for you. One of them is, yourself, you've been quite active, and clearly you're very aware of these issues and the need for role models. Do you consider yourself a role model for others in your community, or more broadly?
Well, I actually do not really consider myself a role model, because I'm also not one of these shiny people who like post on LinkedIn every day and write books and so on. I see myself more like in this mentoring space, and like really, if you have a topic you want to like make progress in, I think I can be helpful, but I don't think I'm like this really inspiring person. Also, like the way I talk, I'm not this guy who's like really energetic and stuff like this. I think it's more like the content and the real challenges where I can have a benefit or bring a benefit to people. So I don't really consider myself a role model. Of course, if people want to see me like this, it's totally okay. But I myself don't do it, and would recommend to also see myself with like a lot of criticism, because like all these points I saw don't idealize role models. And yeah, so this is one important point. So if someone sees me like this, be critical.
I don't know. I respectfully disagree. I think you've been doing this for many years, and that is a huge success. And I think that you could inspire other people. I mean, we shouldn't all aspire to be the next Bill Gates. We need entrepreneurs like yourself out there solving problems. But I'll wrap up with one last question, which is, you're a young entrepreneur, and perhaps you have ideas about how governments or programs or other community actors, how could they better reach young people with role models? Do you have any inspiring ideas for us?
I think what's really important is to having a diversity and also this critical view on the role models, because I think for a long time it was like this, okay, you have this like Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and so on, all white male dudes, like not very diverse, but also always this thing that you have to earn money, and only if you earn like the most money, if you're the richest person on earth, like you're a good entrepreneur. And I think what's really important is to have a role model for everyone, and everyone can relate to, no matter your gender, your race, or like ability or disability. I think it's really important to have role models in really different spaces and with different backgrounds, to just say, okay, everyone can feel inspired by them, and have this grasp of okay, it is possible, no matter your background, that you can do something. And I think this is really important, and to really have a close eye on this diversity aspect, and also this criticism, because there's also like a lot of the times I see this "don't meet your heroes" thing, because when people are really inspired and then meet their role models, it's kind of like disappointing. And I think to have a realistic view on the expectation and what the role model should bring you, because it's not the savior, it's just someone who says okay, or shows it is possible. And I think this view is also quite helpful, to not set like unrealistic expectations.
Okay, very good. Thanks for sharing your experience and your views. We're going to take a few questions from the floor, so please feel free to raise your hand, speak
There
up,
is one in the
or
chat.
insert in the chat, and I will get the ball rolling with a question from Lucia that asks, how did you start your business from a financial standpoint?
So actually, I think I have to answer it in two parts, because with Wild Plastic, it was like kind of a privileged situation, because we are 7 co-founders in total. So it's easier than like from financial perspective to start a business. And we had a lot of support by the government of Hamburg. Actually, we went into a program which granted us, I think, 75,000 euros by grant. We don't have to pay it back to start the business. So we had this like privileged situation with a lot of people, also experienced older people, and this state fund actually that helped us a lot. But I also like started some projects which did not came out as successful businesses, like really with the bootstrap thingy, like really start with the lowest MVP that you can have, and start with like free versions of programs, really get creative with how you can start and how to like confirm or falsify your assumptions. And I think this is a good way to start with your first businesses, and then like you also get the network probably to have more financial resources to start a little bit bigger afterwards.
Okay, any other questions while Yash is here? Last opportunity, going once, twice, 3 times. Okay, we'll close it here then. And we thank you very much, Yasha, for joining us today and for sharing your experiences and your views. We're going to keep moving along in the program now. And next up, we will have a short presentation of the issues notes by Helen. So Helen, I pass the floor over to you.
Thank you, David. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you today. So I'll be briefly presenting the key points of the discussion note that we circulated ahead of the workshop. As we've done in the past, we will input more topics for discussion that we have today into the final summary note, which will be circulated afterwards. So to begin, who are entrepreneurial role models and what do they do? So role models are people who inspire, stimulate, and encourage others to pursue entrepreneurship, very much picking up on the points that we had in the interview. They're often passionate about what they do. They can have valuable experiences and insight, but truly they serve as an example of success to others. And it normally opens the door and shows people that business creation and pursuing this type of career is possible. So why are showcasing role models important as a policy action in supporting young people who want to become entrepreneurs? So the first thing that role models do is they help to increase awareness and understanding of entrepreneurship. We find that a lack of familiarity with business creation normally means that people don't know it's possible. It can also lead to negative attitudes about entrepreneurship if there's no one in the community that is starting their own business or solving problems with different types of solutions, out of the box thinking. We also see that it can help with the desirability and feasibility. When you see someone accomplish it, you realize that you can. So this helps with entrepreneurial motivation and intention by young people who interact with role models. We also see from research evidence that role models can be very impactful, but we have to be mindful they have many good attributes, but they can also limit or have some negative attributes. So while they increase awareness and provide realistic expectations of what starting a business and what entrepreneurship means as a career, they can also limit, if someone has a role model who's failed or they've seen a parent start a business that did not succeed, it can also hinder someone's impression that they too can succeed, meaning that they might have more fear of failure or they don't really want to start up. And this is also heavily influenced by the local environment. So if the business environment has a high business turnover, a lot of closed shops, that's not conducive for people to want to start businesses themselves. However, we do see that role models really help youth overcome negative social attitudes about business creation. When there is a positive example, when there is a success story, it really impacts young people in their views. It also helps facilitate learning and skill development and shows different areas for exploration that young people can explore. We did pick up a bit the topic in the interview in terms of diversity and making sure role models represent a diverse not only in gender, but in sectors of operation and types of business, green, digital, sustainable. But we also see that for young girls, especially, that role models are very important. There tends to be fewer success stories of women entrepreneurs, especially in STEM fields or tech fields that are heavily overrepresented by male entrepreneurs. So we need to make sure that there is overall good representation, that the role models that are being highlighted in programs and in campaigns are diverse and that all young entrepreneurs can see themselves in these role models. So what are governments doing? How are they using role models? One avenue that is a great way to do it is awareness raising campaigns. So these can be high-level campaigns, whether they're online, in the media, and it helps to foster entrepreneurial spirit of young people. We see across EU member states that about 70% of EU countries have targeted youth-specific awareness-raising campaigns related to entrepreneurship. So this is a great way to highlight and showcase success stories and role models. We also see that through formal education. Again, teachers can serve as role models as they often organize the entrepreneurship curriculum. They might even sponsor entrepreneurship clubs or business competitions at the schools, and they help to expand networks where again, young people might be able to find and identify successful entrepreneurs who can serve as role models. We see that role models are often used in entrepreneurship training programs, which we'll talk about more in our panel discussion as well as later in this workshop, that they can be used to highlight or interact with young entrepreneurs. They might come in as speakers to talk about their business experience and how they started their entrepreneurial journeys. They also might come in forms of trainers, coaches, or mentors. So while not all mentors are role models, a lot of times they can be, just because of their experience and the insights they provide. So networks can also provide young entrepreneurs with role models because it allows them to expand their professional relationships, to interact with, again, more mature, successful entrepreneurs that have been down the road a little bit longer. And that can also be a great role model. And lastly, business competitions. And this is really important for highlighting other young role models for youth entrepreneurs that are interested in developing their businesses. Seeing success stories of people their own age who are accomplishing things, who have started businesses and who are winning competitions can be a great way to highlight young entrepreneurial role models for others. So I will wrap it up there. Happy to answer any questions, and we'll get into more of these in the panel sessions and the discussion session later this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Are there any questions on the note? Any additional comments people would like to inject now? Okay. In that event, we will keep on rolling onto the next agenda item. So it's my pleasure to introduce Ruth Passerman, Director of Funds Programming and Implementation from DG Employment, who will be moderating the next session with a host of young people. And so I will call her to the screen and we can get her to introduce the young people. So Helen, could you please invite the young people onto the screen as well?
I'm trying to get myself better into the picture, but okay. Okay. Well, okay, let's see what we can do. Hello?
Hello.
Yes,
We can hear
okay.
you and see you.
Good, very good. So good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be here. We are having a very interesting panel of young people who have had experience, who are entrepreneurs and have experience both of looking for role models and getting inspired, and also perhaps being role models. So perhaps I let them introduce themselves first. Who wants to start? In my screen is Lucy first, so if you want to start.
Oh, yes, sure. So hello, nice to meet everyone. So my name is Lucy. I am currently a university student, and I am involved in an association called SheEOs, and we aim to promote female entrepreneurship to university students through an incubator and also other initiatives.
Thank you. Aina?
So hi everyone, I'm Aina Spatza and representing National Center for Education of Latvia, which is Ministries of Education governmental agency. And among many duties and things that we are doing nationwide, I am managing a Girl Leadership and Entrepreneurship Program, Future Heroes Latvia.
Thank you very much. Then perhaps can I ask Maria to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Hi, I'm Maria from Estonia, and I am leading here the Student Company Program Alumni Organization, which is meant for student company alumni who want to give back for their experience they could have and now help next student companies to start.
And last but not least, can I ask George to introduce himself?
Good morning, everyone. My name is George, and I'm from Greece. Last year, I was leading a nonprofit initiative called Startup Universe, which helped around 500 startups from 14 countries worldwide connect with the global tech community. And it's a pleasure to be here with you to share my experience as a young person and how I view role models and entrepreneurship. I hope my experiences through, for example, I have visited Silicon Valley and I have had the chance to participate in Davos this year, meeting some of those people we all see in the media in person. And I hope I can provide some of those insights here with all of you today.
Thank you. Thank you all for your introductions. You're very inspiring, I have to say. But perhaps let's start. First round, I suggest I have a question on why do you think what is important in a role model? And perhaps you can mention your personal experience of how you got where you are and how role models have supported you. We can go in the same order if you want.
Okay, sure. So
Next round, I'll change, okay?
yeah, so I mean, as a current university student, I have lots of experience with role models who have inspired me and also mentors. I think that in this period of your life, I think it's really important to have this kind of support. And I mean, like those who typically inspire students from our association are the ones who are almost the same age as them or a bit older. So I thought that it was really interesting what Helen said on like the fact that competitions really foster this love of entrepreneurship among students, because it really does from what we have seen at our association. But in general, from what we have seen, the role models who really inspire the most are those with an atypical background, because we work with women. They typically are not necessarily involved in tech-related studies. So that means they are really inspired by other women who might have a degree in literature, for instance, and are still able to have a venture after that. But what we have also observed is that some of them do glamorize a lot entrepreneurship due to social media. That is an issue we want to tackle through being a legitimate source of conveying what true entrepreneurship is. So that's what we do in our communications.
Thank you. Yeah. Do you want to start to continue, Aina, on the same question?
Yes, absolutely. So I will probably build on already from the experience running the program for 4 years. So one of the most important lessons that we have learned from the girls, because we work with girls as future entrepreneurs, is that empowering youth needs to happen through role models and mentoring. And especially for girls, our experience shows that female role models work the best because they can relate to them much easier. They can feel them and understand, and the dialogue happens more easier, and it's more empowering. Me personally, looking back at my career, I also have to say that female role models were the ones that led me to the place where I am currently. And funny or not, but I have started my entrepreneurial journey only last year. I have never been in business, so now I'm also a part of a startup as a co-founder, which was due to inspiration and encouragement from a female founder. So yeah, that's my share.
Thank you very much for sharing your experience. Maria?
I also have a personal story for that. So I also have my own business, and in my business we help companies to go abroad. So basically expand their doings to the new markets. And how I started with this, I went to university. It was a business university where most of the teachers were well-known entrepreneurs or really known experts in their field. So they had really great stories about what they have done, and it was really inspiring. One of the courses I took was multicultural marketing, and the teacher there, she has been almost everywhere in the world, done expos in 50 plus countries, have worked people from everywhere, and it was really, really inspiring. After that, she invited me to do my internship at her company, and I started off as a sales communication manager there, helping warm up new markets they want to expand to. And at one place, we thought that why we are doing it only for one product, we can do it as a program for everyone. So instead of buying in an expert who knows how to export, we can teach entrepreneurs how to do it. So the toolbox would stay in their company and they can go to the next markets by themselves. Yep.
Okay, thank you. And George, perhaps?
So I can share some personal stories as well. When young people look about entrepreneurship and try to find ways how they can get involved, or people that have done something similar that they dream of, they often find some people online. I believe it's important the role models to be transparent and honest with their mentees or their audience. I read something that stuck with me a few days ago, that now living in a digital world where everything is connected and we can have access to people worldwide, it's important to focus on our own values and connect with people that we share those values together, because the geographical barrier is not there anymore. This is what I want to share. Maybe one last thing is that role models, or maybe specifically mentors, they have all that experience, and at least from my experience, sometimes they might be a bit mysterious and not show you everything on the first place. They let you go through a learning journey yourself, and sometimes this is good.
Thank you very much. I want to pick up actually on points that some of you made on the digital or presence on social media and social media's role model. So, in the sense, what are the characteristics that make a good role model and genuine, like you said, and that is not that you don't become too exposed to a fake reality in a way. I don't know if you, since I'm now going to change the order, shall we go the other way around, starting with George?
Sure.
So please.
Well, I can say that it is a fact that when you go to social media nowadays, you will see many guys, particularly, so trying to sell you a course and how to become an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur. And I believe those are not the best role models. Nowadays, I tend to find people that have a low number of followers, because they seem more authentic, more genuine. And there are many people who have that experience. Some people choose to share it with the audience, and they're genuine people. Some others don't like the media at all. So unfortunately, it is hard to get their insights if you don't know them personally. From the other point of view, I believe social media has helped raise awareness about entrepreneurship worldwide, whether that's from young people to adults. Many people have been inspired to change their careers or pursue a side hustle, and it has turned out great for some of them. To me, it's important that yourself, you know what you're looking for in the long term, trying to find people that also focus on the long term and not on short-term trades, and to build upon on that.
Thank you.
So
Maria?
coming back to that, yeah, I can continue. So coming back to the student company programs,
yes,
what I think is the most important is when the role model I'm sorry for my language, but also shares the fuck up they have done. Not only the success stories they have, but also what have been like what have happened to them, so students can learn from it. It's sometimes it's more educational than the success stories. When it's only the success, it's harder for them. They need to also know that these people also have failed and tried and tried and tried, and then they succeed. So I think that's important.
Okay, but this is also about I mean, it doesn't have to be necessarily you know them personally. It could also be someone only
it also can
social.
be in social media that they're encouraged to have also what's if something bad have happened and they have gone through it. Yes.
So what's important is the round picture, that you have the pros and cons.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Not only the good side, but also like both of the sides, something from there.
Yeah, thank you. Aina?
Absolutely. I could just agree to what Maria just said. From the Future Heroes experience, we select role models and mentors and those who are so-called inspirational speakers that we have. We select them so that the message that they provides different range of perspectives and experiences. They are visible superstars, someone is well-known, celebrity, and we also try to pick up less known superheroes so that the girls can be inspired and hear very diverse stories. That's one. And also we speak with them before, and we want to know these personal stories, personal challenges, and we want them to be honest with the girls, with the future entrepreneurs. So not to have this superficial fake stories or stories told. So that's, I guess, how we attend this matter.
Thank you.
Oh, I guess I am last. So
this time,
yeah, no worries. So in our case, we look for women role models, obviously because of our goal. I mean, just like Aina. And we have different ways of communicating about role models. So in terms of our social media, we're really looking for famous people or highlight a woman's path, which is quite atypical because we think that it can highlight some strengths, personal strengths that are necessary. And then we also organize meetups with people who seem interesting to us. And in this case, we're going to have different criteria. So we're going to contact women who aren't necessarily launchers, but do have some relevant skills for an entrepreneurship journey. And sometimes we're working in startups and can give some hints to students as to how they can find jobs in the startup scene and all that. Then we also, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm being interrupted, so I'm just going to end here my intervention. But yeah, basically one of the other problems we have faced is that in France, women who are involved in entrepreneurship are often coming from a few select schools, so that it does pose a problem in terms of finding girls from atypical backgrounds to present their own ventures.
Thank you. This is actually an interesting point, the issue of the background of where people who are interested in entrepreneurially is coming from. Okay, I think this is something that we need to keep in mind.
And Ruth, may I add a comment before moving to the next question? I feel like we all know those super successful entrepreneurs like Steve Jobs, Elon Musk. I don't know about you, but rarely do we see the local entrepreneurs in our communities, in our country. People that those are the entrepreneurs that when you go to the supermarket, you buy their products. Those people are not often famous or known to the public. I don't know, of course, this varies between country to country due to the different sizes, but to me, this has been the experience. Like, I knew those guys from Silicon Valley, but I didn't know about the great work that local successful entrepreneurs have done in my country.
Well, indeed, and I think it's a role model that is closer to you is someone that is actually more useful than Elon Musk, because I mean, sort of a completely different history and experience, and you cannot necessarily relate. So I would think that it's interesting to have role models that you can relate to in some part, I mean, at least of their experience. I mean, that would be my thinking. But happy to hear your comments also from the floor if anybody wants to intervene. No, not yet. Okay, so perhaps I ask another question to all of you, which concerns the where do we go from here? I mean, what should be done, and how can also, if you want us, the public sector, help you? Sorry, I didn't say in which order, so I don't know. Let's start with Aina this time.
Absolutely. So working in a governmental institution myself, it's an interesting question to answer. But of course, how I see this, I think government shouldn't create these initiatives from a scratch. One approach could be to look for already existing initiatives in, let's say, regions or rural areas, or particular school that has started something that works to develop young entrepreneurship journeys and support already existing ones. That could be one. Investing in programs that already have this track record of success of developing young entrepreneurial journeys. So in that way, governments can make an impact and avoid duplication of efforts, which is often seen. From my own example, I have spoken with other agencies and they have similar programs, and we do the same thing, but in different agencies. Additionally, I think governments can encourage and support those schools that have already included entrepreneurship education in their curricula. Especially, I'm talking about such initiatives that are project-based and real-world experiences, where those young people are encouraged to go outside and try out their first business ventures in some kind of a no-risk environment. And also it works vice versa. Those who already have, let's say, youth program leaders in NGOs, those who already have running initiatives, bottom-up approach still works. So if you are looking to scale up, try different governmental organizations, look out for funding. There are certain priorities that you probably match to. So prepare a strong proposal, knock to the doors. That's another approach I think that could work. Thank you.
Thank you. Maria, do you want to go next?
Yes, of course. So I think for Estonia, the first thing is we're a really small country. It's only 1.3 million people. So if we have something already going on, it's usually easy to get everywhere because it's a small country. But I also partly agree with Aina that if there is already a good program, then maybe government can help to be better or invest in them so it could last longer. Yes.
George, you want to come in?
Yeah, sure. So I really agree with the points Aina and Maria mentioned already. I don't know if it is a specific program or how you call it, but whether it's an initiative, a project, a company, or an event that has been successful on a region, I believe it's important to continue those things to be implemented. Usually when something successful happens in a smaller rural region, it tends to go and move to the capital cities, but capital cities are crowded with successful examples. Another thing is that for the future entrepreneurs, I believe it's important is that we live in a world nowadays that people don't really focus on their values and don't spend lots of time growing themselves spiritually. So from an educational perspective, it would be great if the public sector could help in that process for young people. At the moment, I can see some initiatives going on the private sector only. And last but not least, networking can truly prove useful. You know, there are some events and so on that some people might see that they're not so helpful, but I believe we should continue to invest in those sessions, networking events, connecting people. For example, in Greece, we've got a big Greek diaspora abroad. We've got Greek successful entrepreneurs in the United States, in Europe, and in Asia. If somehow the public sector could support those people, take some time out of their busy schedule to come and bring their insights back to their home country, or successful entrepreneurs opening a branch apart from their headquarters abroad in their home country, I believe this could drive a great impact.
I could support George in this because just yesterday I was in a very exact event that you just described. So Riga City, Riga is our capital. So Riga City Council supports largest NGO, which is called Riga Tech Girls, which deals with empowering female to turn into tech and IT sector. And they organize female founders lunch, which in reality means that for 2 hours there's a space and time for established female tech startup founders to share their stories to aspiring founders or only those who have ideas. So, and there are these 2 hours and it's absolutely working. It's absolutely amazing. I was giving a speech yesterday and afterwards there is very active but limited to 1 hour networking, and connections are born, ideas are born, people are meeting people, and it works fantastic, very easy to implement.
And usually the issue with those things is that, at least in Greece, there is Enterprise Greece from the public sector that organizes such events and connections, but usually they tend to appeal to successful startups and mature entrepreneurs. But so young entrepreneurs, it's not inclusive for them to go and connect with the role models. So that's the obstacle, the entrance to those circles, those connections.
Okay, I just give the floor to Lucy, who hadn't spoken in this round. Yeah. You're muted.
I mean, everyone is saying very interesting things. So yeah, I took notes. I was like, interesting, interesting ideas. So I mean, in France, I think the situation is kind of different. So that's why it's interesting to compare it. From what I saw, there are not really many educative initiatives in France for entrepreneurs, at least from what I know. And so it's typically at university that you really learn what entrepreneurship is. The problem is by university, you already have some biases when it comes to entrepreneurship. So, and I think that entrepreneurship really lies in risk taking. The problem is, at least from what we have saw at the association, that people who live in a situation of financial instability, and typically girls, are, well, less prone to taking risks. And obviously, so when they have less role models than maybe male students. So, and from the classes I have taken on entrepreneurship at university for now, I have seen very little efforts to democratize entrepreneurship. So for instance, no informations were given to us as to how to start a business when you have no initial investment. No information was given to us in terms of how to get like government aid for your idea. How can you be a student and yet accommodate your venture into your studies? So no practical like advice was given in those courses. And I think that's really bad because when you only have the theory and you have no practice or no hands-on solutions, you can't really start anything and your class ends up being not that useful. even though, yes, you still have role models who can help you, and so networking can compensate in terms of having access to information, but I still think that this kind of information, which is central, should be really taken into account into education programs. And so I think also that, yeah, it's really important to gamify entrepreneurship too. I think that the problem in France is that typically entrepreneurship competitions are really limited to a few select universities. So that means that people who are basically not from Paris have no exposure to entrepreneurship because everything is so centralized into Paris. So when I go to an entrepreneurship competition, the only people I meet are people who live 1 hour away from me, like huge maximum. And I think that's not really what we mean by democratizing entrepreneurship. And finally, I think that because of AI, and the fact that entrepreneurship will really rely on AI, I am quite scared that this might hinder even more girls' access to entrepreneurship, because it really emphasizes the use of a really high-tech technology rather than maybe focusing on climate change or like impact solutions. So I think it's really important to foster social impact through technologies rather than the technology in itself.
Oh, thank you. That's a quite interesting insight. I didn't think about that before. I think it's time for me to open the floor for questions from anyone else that wants to intervene. I think there are quite interesting topics that were touched on the issue of the importance of genuine role models, or that they tell you the full story. The issue of the democratization, as Lucie mentioned it, or I mean, others have mentioned the same thing, that it has to be accessible, you know, at the local level. For example, George mentioned that, and the difficulty for people of vulnerable background or with no one in their back to actually be able to start up and things like that. So any questions that participants want to ask to our panel?
I would just add up for a second, maybe from Estonia. We have really, really good practice here. I think it's all over the world, at least I hope so. It's a job shadow day where a student can go and shadow a real entrepreneur for a day and see what they have done, what they are doing in their day job and so else. And we have done it for 30 years now in Estonia. And there are different programs. For example, I am running the Job Shadow Day Crown, which is meant for really known entrepreneurs and TV stars who are taking a student who would work for them one day. And it's what we have seen in the feedback is that it's really life-changing opportunity for students. They see what their actual life is behind the success. So it's really helpful also. And just to add up, we also have different hackathons for young entrepreneurs where they can win funding. And it's not, I would say it's like really big amount of money what they can win from there. And we have them going on almost every month. There is some opportunity coming up. And not only for the capital city, but as I said, as I mentioned, Estonia is a small city and it's easy to travel around here and be part of the opportunities they have given out to young entrepreneurs.
Thank you for that. Interesting. So again, though, I have to say I open the floor if anyone wants to intervene. I have one question from Julien, also from the European Commission, and another question from Konstantinos Papadakis. Let's take them in this order, perhaps, and then we go back. If there is a third question, okay, we start with these two, and then we go back to our panelists. Julien?
Yeah. Thank you, Ruth. I have a question about motivation to our panelists. For me, it's always too surprising to see how entrepreneurship becomes something quite trendy or for young people today that well, in my generation, I mean 20 years ago, it was not even an option. So could you tell us why you see this new trend about motivation for entrepreneurship? And also what is interesting for me, it's that even if you fail in your project of being an entrepreneur, it seems that you increase your employability for the future, that you gain skills. And for me, that would be probably the best motivation. So please try. And if you fail, you will have learned something. Just that was my intervention. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd ask Konstantinos also to make his question, and then I go back to the panelists.
Thank you. I don't know if you can hear me well.
Yes, very well.
So nice to be introduced to so many wonderful opinions and hear about them. I have coming from the social business and social entrepreneurship sector, and being the newest addition to the committee for social economy for DigiGrow, I have heard a lot of influence coming from the IT sector and tech sector for young entrepreneurs. I want to ask, has anyone been introduced to some role models or mentors or even good practices coming from the social economy as a business model? And I heard Lucy, Miss Kempf, saying about the democratization of the business model. So it's one of the main focuses of social economy. Has she heard in France any good practices regarding social economy? And second part of this question is in rural areas, as George said, has anyone been introduced to models for resilient and green farming entrepreneurship? Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. So perhaps Lucy, you were mentioned first, so I ask you to start, and then if anyone else, and George, and then but the others, if you want to intervene, feel free.
Okay, sure. So I might answer Mr. Debate's question first. So in terms of, I mean, from what I saw from my classes, well, I'm at a political science university, so no one is interested in entrepreneurship apart from me. But from what I saw, in terms of other people I might meet outside of university, it's really trendy to be an entrepreneur because of all those success stories you hear. So because it is so glamorized on social media, you see people who earn tons of money and they say they don't work that much. So that really is attractive to people who want to go into entrepreneurship. I think it's really seen as a solution now, way more than it was before. Particularly with influencers, I think they are also a great example of that. You only like publish a few videos and you can become quite rich. So that's also something that attracts lots of students. And then you also mentioned like how failure in entrepreneurship can be good for the jobs that you may get after graduation. I mean, I'm still a student, so I have no experience in that, but I do agree that you get some really valuable skills from entrepreneurship, even when you have failed. And one of my teachers actually told me that he knew many entrepreneurs who actually only want to hire people who have already failed, because those are the ones who are the most determined to actually make a difference in their new job. And then in terms of like the social economy question, I think your question is really interesting because I love the social economy. In France, I have seen very few initiatives from the government. At least I am not informed of them. I have seen, however, many good practices coming from NGOs, associations. You have, especially in Paris, you have many associations who are working towards making entrepreneurship more accessible. One of the most original initiatives I have encountered, for example, was an association who tried to make entrepreneurship a viable solution for prisoners who are going out of prison and who wanted to make a living after their years in prison. So I think the government is more highlighting the tech aspect of entrepreneurship. They kind of want to have the next ChatGPT rather than have like a social economy businesses.
Thank you. George, you want to pick up from there?
Sure, I definitely agree with Lucy. And I can share a personal story, which has been very interesting. On my way from Zurich to Davos, I had the chance to sit next to a Greek businessman. Not well known, but his business is doing dozens of millions of revenue each year, employing over 50 people. And he was like, okay, I have made a good life through this business, but I don't, it's like I don't want it anymore. There are all those hot role models from Silicon Valley, or those 25-year-olds raising millions in funding so quickly. And I would like to be that guy. And I'm like, why would you like to live a successful business that's generating profit every year to pursue something that risky? Because there are many founders that have raised millions in funding and have had great troubles in the end. So yeah, it's generally social media don't always show the real truth. Regarding rural areas, what I was thinking is like there are some I can talk about Greece. There are some initiatives like the Joist Park in Larissa. I live in Thessaloniki, which is the second largest city, and the ecosystem is still developing here. Athens is far more developed, I dare to say. For example, we have an annual conference called Beyond, which focuses on technology, and it invites some remarkable experts or entrepreneurs to Thessaloniki, and it has been great. But it has been only a few days that they announced that they will, from now on, the event will take place 1 year in Athens and 1 year in Thessaloniki, which I find it's bad for the local ecosystem here. Like Athens has those events already. Why would someone would approve such a change and not keep investing in Thessaloniki to continue growing? I don't know if that answers your question.
It's an interesting insight. I don't know if Aina or Maria want to come in, otherwise we have other questions lined up, so I would move on.
Just
yeah, quickly
jump in.
Okay, so please, Maria, start.
So actually about social enterprises and there was farmers were mentioned in a question. I would say that even though they might not have the money to be on a picture all everywhere in Estonia, what we have the platforms now which are easy to use and they're free of money. So now we have the TikTok channel, for example, and very many farmers in Estonia use it to talk about their products, and they became role models really quickly. For example, we have a small dairy product Ray in Estonia, a farmer who is producing milk and cheese and so else, and he started to talk about it on TikTok and became a really known role model soon. So in 2022, the sales for the farm increased about 3 times in a year. So that's what social media can do. If you don't have money to market yourself anywhere else. And also social enterprises use it a lot. Talk on TikTok, and young people can see them and know them now.
Thank you. Aina, you wanted to say something?
Yes, absolutely. So in the Future Heroes program, we don't put pressure. That's the main aspect. We don't put pressure that you have to become a business lady or entrepreneur. We give them a choice. Some girls apply because they want to become leaders and be influential and build their careers in banks. Some girls apply because they want to start their own business and they're just curious what we can give them. And our goal is to give them the skill set, the network, and the courage to do whatever they want with those skills later on. And our results show that about 50% of projects that girls create during the program are with social impact. So they are naturally driven towards social impact projects, and about 50% create new product prototypes or business ideas, let's say so. And to answer the second question, I can speak only from the perspective of my program that I'm running. We closely collaborate with NGOs, and the Latvian Social Entrepreneurship Association comes in every year and speaks about what it means to run a social enterprise, what it is. So there is information, and at least the program participants are very well exposed to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I have now 3 questions lined up, and then we do another round, and then we wrap up, and we're a bit late, but obviously there was a lot of interest. So Karin, please.
Hi.
Hi.
Karin Holmqvist, I'm on the Swedish team, and I have also been working with an incubator at Stockholm School of Economics. I was the one starting in the academic setting. But my question here, I keep thinking that in reality, we have all entrepreneurs are role models of some kind, all entrepreneurs. The problem in society is that we don't see these people. We don't see them. Politicians have been or are entrepreneurs. So there is a lack of skills. So when young people think about entrepreneurship, they are a blank slate. And so we're talking about role models, but I also think it would be, from a perspective of young people, interesting to think of the role models for young people as a start. So because as already Yasha said, and all of the panelists are into this, there is like a link from having a role model to getting a mentor, or one or more role models, one or more mentors, than to create a network. Because as an entrepreneur, you need to have a network. You need to have people you can speak to. You need to have people who can endorse you in different circles. So I see a clear link. So the ideal role models would be those who could lead you to or become mentors, and who could also by themselves and by the mentors help you establish a good network for your company. So I was thinking, does that ring true? Because I think if we are doing something in Sweden, I think we should go on this wider picture, so to speak, to see that it's not only to have young people meet somebody who they think are good and is like a something they could aspire to be, but to frame that in a bigger picture where the ultimate goal is to get you quickly to that network that you need to have your company going up and going.
Thank you. Thank you, Karin, also for your insights. I have now Lucia. Yeah.
Nice to meet you, first of all, and thank you for sharing your experience. It was really inspiring. I'm a part of Junior Enterprises Europe, and so I'm trying to be like an entrepreneur in Europe as you, but I'm trying actually. And one of the biggest issue that I found in our system, and especially in Italy, where I come from, is the team. Because you know that sometimes as a students have not so much time to spend on our project, especially because, you know, I don't know if in the other parts of Europe is like that, but in Italy, if you are late with your studies, is a big problem for your career. And we have also like to think about the economic part of our life. So if we want to invest our time in our enterprises, it is really difficult to do that because we have all this problem. So since the team factor is one of the main reasons why startups fall, I think that how did you do that? How did you found the right people to build your activity? And how did you manage the fact that maybe they had a lot of things to do, especially studies? And yes, I'm so curious about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucia. So we've now gone over the time that was allotted for us for this panel. So I will take the question of Mathilde, and that's it. And then allow those of you that want to intervene to speak. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. I will be try to be brief because we're over time. But first of all, I really appreciate seeing the problem of diversity being raised. It's really an issue, the geographical concentration, the fact that the background of the people that are put forward tend to be the same, the rural areas being forgotten. This is really important. I guess it's not a question, it's more like a comment, but I wanted to raise the importance of creating networks of these role models and having these networks ongoing. Because where I work at Cooperatives Europe, I help coordinate, for example, like a network of young entrepreneurs who build their business in the form of a cooperative. And I saw a lot of these people not considering themselves as a role model, but integrating this network and slowly becoming these role models through the network, and they gain visibility, not just individual, but as the network, and they get to talk about the experience, and then they get to inspire people. So it's really like the idea of like turning these young entrepreneurs that don't consider themselves as role models. And the importance of like having these networks that are kind of like self-sufficient and growing on their own, and not only relying on government policies and support. This is essential, obviously, but we've seen from experience that you never know what can happen. The funding run out, then election shifts the political support. And so like suddenly all these like government initiatives kind of like stop. So it's really, we've seen, and we're really trying to have like this idea of like having a network of young entrepreneurs that are their own role models and inspire other people from the same age on average, to inspire them and to have this self-sufficient network, because they are essential. That was it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now I pass on to the panel, whoever wants to start. Owen?
Maybe I can
Okay,
go
yeah.
in. First of all, regarding Corinne's comments, I think it would be great if those role models would become more accessible, let's say, especially with local entrepreneurs, because as we mentioned before, it would be hard to achieve something like this with well-known international entrepreneurs. At the same time, I can understand why some of them might be hesitant, especially in Greece, for example. There are those stereotypes. Oh, if someone is a successful entrepreneur, they have lots of money, people would hang out with them for financial reasons. So this wouldn't mean for a genuine relationship. And people don't want that. So of course it's very reasonable. So they tend to go behind the scenes, not to be present on media, and try to hide their faces just for their own security and peace in life. So, and Lucia, I have to say that myself, I still don't believe that I have found the right team. There are always talented, remarkable people to work with. And yes, the ecosystem is being developed. So there are many people that don't know about entrepreneurship or startups here in Greece. And still, that's my main hustle, trying to find the right people to cooperate and work on projects together. I would go back to, we now live in a digital world where everything can be connected. So don't lose faith. Trying to connect and to meet with people, it's a constant process of life. It doesn't happen only when you are young. So yeah.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else wants to pick up on that of my panel?
I could
Please,
add a
Lucy.
little something if I could jump in. Yeah, I mean, I thought the question from Ms. Delaby was quite interesting. I mean, if I understood it correctly, you were asking how to support people in having a self-sufficient network. So in this case, I think it's quite challenging to do that because especially when you're targeting people who are not at business schools or who are out of school. So people who are like, for example, 20 are not in studies, not working. It's quite difficult to, in these cases, make them be self-sufficient in terms of meeting new people that can inspire them. But in this case, we do encourage people to really go on social media and be spontaneous. So anytime you see, I don't know, a post on LinkedIn that you really like from a person you think is interesting, you might ask them, could we have a coffee chat sometime? This is the way we encourage people to meet inspiring role models. And then in terms of people who are out of studies, we have found quite a lot of difficulties in terms of making them understand the importance of knowing how to address people who can help you. This is one of the difficulties we're facing. I still don't have a solution to that, but I would be eager to know what you can say about it.
And maybe I can add something on that. It's if you're a young person, a young entrepreneur or a student, I believe it's an advantage to go and reach out to those people because most of them are sensitive and they have this mentality of paying it forward to new generations. So they're more likely to give you insights, ideas, and trying to help you. This is the reason why Silicon Valley has become so successful, because if you don't pay it forward to the next entrepreneurs, the community will stop caring about you.
Interesting point. I think the ability to network or to start a conversation is really quite crucial, and it actually also for unemployed people is one of the main activities that needs to be taught. Really, how to start to approach people. If no one else wants to intervene, I think I will close it there with only 9 minutes late. Sorry about that to the organizers. I think it was fascinating, and a lot of ideas have come up on not only on how to be a role model and what we want from the role models. I mean, the genuinity, like you mentioned, the people that are true to themselves, that are available, but also the importance of reaching out to vulnerable groups and vulnerable backgrounds, and to look at local role models. I think actually Mathilde did a very good summary on those points. I take the point of the tech, which is on one hand it's important, but on the other hand is not the only world. I mean, there are a lot of entrepreneurial positions in all fields of life, including in social economy, and we shouldn't focus only on supporting those that want to have invest somehow at tech in the widest sense career. Okay, conversation to continue in the next panel. Thank you very much for all of you for this for participating, both the panelists and the people that ask questions and that listened actively. Thank you very much. And I give the floor to David. Yes.
Yes, great. Thank you very much. Thank you to all of the panelists and the participants for the questions and interventions. I propose that we take a short break now, just to get up and stretch. So we can take, let's say, 5 minutes, and then we will come back and we'll get into a little bit about what the research is saying about role models and whether they are effective or not. We will get some insights about how they can be used. And we're really lucky to have Professor Hiti with us, who of course is a well-known researcher in the field, and she's been working on this topic for many years. So we're excited to have her. So take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back with Professor Hiti. So see you in 5. Thanks. Hello, everybody. Hope you had a chance to get up and stretch. If we were at the OECD, I'd be ringing a little bell now to call you back into the room. So please turn on your cameras so that I can see if you are there or not, and we'll get restarted momentarily. Okay, I'm starting to see the cameras come back on, so this is good news. Let's get back into it. We're really lucky to have a special guest with us today. Professor Hiti from the University of Turku will be sharing some of her work. So without further ado, I will pass the floor over to her.
Yes, so thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very happy that I could participate the first part of this workshop because of the very interesting and lovely insight that was provided. So I actually made some tweaks on my slides based on this to propose some additional questions or to emphasize a few points. So we do acknowledge that role models matter. So this is kind of or very well emphasized in the discussion paper that you have received. So I don't spend a lot of time here, but just pick up a couple of points that I would like to emphasize. So why do role models matter? It is, of course, it's for the compensating for the lack of experience, for inspiration and motivation and increasing self efficacy and so forth. But to me, and also this is my kind of takeaway from the early part of the workshop, that they matter because of role identification. And if I sort of take this now to my own research area, the identity and how do people become entrepreneurs, how do they kind of adopt this position, it is because of the identification process. So in order to become an entrepreneur, you need to see yourself as an entrepreneur, and you need to kind of believe that the others will kind of validate this perception. So it's not only like internal process, it's kind of a social process that this identity is constructed against and with the others. And that's why the research actually says, and this was picked up in the discussion before, that the entrepreneurs and their role models tend to resemble each other. It's the same gender, it's the same sector, it's the same nationality, and so forth. So I think this kind of research backs the earlier discussion quite well. And this is why the role models are often found close by. It's the next door examples versus the icons that were also discussed earlier. And actually, I started to think that when we talk about role models, and we often refer to these great role models from Silicon Valley, that actually those role models are kind of very horrible role models, or they have become horrible role models. There's one that is trying to mess with the democratic processes in one country. There are a few who are trying to send rockets to the space and go to the space themselves, as opposed to solving problems like the first entrepreneur who was here. He is actually trying to solve problems. And then we have these allegedly great role models who would have a lot of means to do this, but they seem to be occupied with other interests. So I would actually start thinking that are these great role models really horrible, or have they become really horrible role models? But yeah, so we also know from research that parental role models are really important, and it's actually perhaps the main explanation for why we see what is happening, that the entrepreneurship runs in the family. There are some people who have tried to put forward the genetic explanation, but I believe, and I guess the research kind of backs this up, that it's through the role models that this happens. And there was a discussion about, especially with the entrepreneur, Yasha, that how do their role models change? And this is also something that comes across from the research, that in the pre-startup phase, it's perhaps more unplanned learning interactions with the role models that you happen to have close by. But in the post-startup, it may become more purposeful and leading to these kind of learning goals. And then maybe, as was mentioned, maybe they become more of mentors than role models. And maybe there's then room for education and other support organizations to kind of help the pre-startup entrepreneurs already to kind of form these more purposeful role model relationships, and that can really help in the personal growth or business challenges. And yes, the role models, they can serve many functions. They can be about the business, and they can be about the small business management. But again, I would kind of want to emphasize this aspect of learning about oneself, that when you are interacting with others, role models, when aspiring to be an entrepreneur, you also use the others in learning about yourself, and for example, the values that was also mentioned here in the panel, which is, I think, very, very important. But then the tweaks that I made into the slides during the discussion, the first one, that who are the new role models for youth today? And one thing that I would like to put on the table is the role of social media entrepreneurs and influencers. Because although perhaps us in the older generation are not that exposed to this, but the young people in TikTok, they're getting a lot of exposure. And then we see also these kind of, at least in Finland and I guess elsewhere, these huge events when there's this kind of greet and meet opportunity with the influencers, and it's packed. The stadiums are packed with young people who want to meet these role models. However, this also becomes comes with the caveat, because I have been an examiner for a PhD thesis that kind of studied these social media entrepreneurs, influencers, and there are kind of quite big challenges when it comes to their well-being, because it's so consuming to be an influencer. It's like this extreme 24/7. So we need to understand also these kind of downsides, and if we use, for example, influencers as role models, so how do we kind of address these issues? And this goes to also the discussion earlier. How do we expose and get to the dark side as well, which is very well hidden in these platforms? Then I'm a little bit uneasy with the idea that we use role models for promoting entrepreneurship, because doesn't that come with the risk that we are actually generating these false promises? And this was picked up in the Youth Entrepreneurship Policy Report, that we need to understand this. So in this sense, I think for me, the importance of role models is more through creating awareness that, you know, entrepreneurship is one of the options for our students, for example, in our university, and then kind of showcasing the different types and the diversity, which was very important here in the discussion, that it can be almost anything, and the scale can be from very small scale to large scale. It can be community based, it can be for social addressing social issues, it can be many things. So for me, role models are more for creating awareness and understanding, but not for promoting entrepreneurship. Then again, I'm picking up a couple of points that were also kind of emphasized in the discussion, and I know that my colleagues here in the audience, Karin Holmqvist and Francisco Lignan, have studied gender in entrepreneurship. And this is something that we really need to understand together with the diversity in general. So even if we don't pay attention to this kind of role modeling that will take place, for example, in education, it will take place. So if we are blind to the need for diversity and kind of suggest that these entrepreneurs that we will bring into the classroom, for example, that they serve as role models for all students, we can kind of create these divisions, and we can actually convey the message to some of our students that you are not entrepreneurial types. So if we have these, let's take the examples that I think that we often have in our educational programs. It's the tech entrepreneurs, and when it is tech entrepreneurs, it's often male white tech entrepreneurs, and by bringing this kind of profile to the classes and courses, we are at the same time kind of sending this message that entrepreneurship is for certain kinds of people and not all kinds of people. But the gender is here only one example. But then in the panel we heard about other forms. We heard about able-bodied expectations, disabled. I'm currently working with in a project that looks at the role of high-skilled immigrants in Finland. So it's also about ethnicity. It's also about the country of origin. So I think there's a room for us to be very attentive towards this and really kind of contribute to this diversity. And I'm glad that there are so many initiatives ongoing that we heard just before that are taking these issues seriously. Then another paper that I have been involved looks at this from a different angle, and this looks at these entrepreneurship societies, and at least in the Finnish universities, these entrepreneurship societies, which are kind of entrepreneurship clubs for the students, have become very powerful. Probably many of you know the Slash event that is organized annually in Helsinki, and that is organized by the Aalto Entrepreneurship Society. So the students who are active in entrepreneurship in Aalto, and these entrepreneurship societies are also in other university cities. And then in this kind of research that we undertook, we looked at how they kind of form collective entrepreneurial identity. And what was kind of alarming to me, at least, was that it was kind of built up on this idea that, you know, entrepreneurs need to be these kind of positive thinkers. There needs to be this positive energy. You know, you are kind of needing to establish yourself as this kind of a neoliberal ideal type who kind of can survive whatever comes, deal with all sorts of uncertainty, this learning from failure that we have heard about, that, you know, it's not something that you should be sorry about or mourn about, but you are just shouldering on. And there was very little kind of critical reflection on the values or the risks. And if I would like to suggest a change here, it would be more towards kind of the need to also talk about failure as something that can be damaging, for example. I mean, for sure, you can learn from failure, but we also know from research that failures are causing mental health issues with entrepreneurs. There is even research that suggests that higher risk for suicide. So I don't believe we can be kind of turning our eyes from that, and we need to kind of also acknowledge this kind of and maybe help this kind of debate in our educational programs to happen. Then lastly, something that was also picked up in the discussion or in the panel before, that of course context matter too. And in our research, we looked at so how adolescents, so really young persons, how they see entrepreneurship and what kind of abilities they have to become entrepreneurs. And actually, what we would like to suggest with this research is that although we are often depicting the rural context as something where people struggle, they have challenges. And for sure, yes, if we look at, for example, employment opportunities, jobs, it can be so that they are fewer and so forth. But what we picked up is that the rural context actually offers probably more opportunities to trying out entrepreneurship, trying out entrepreneurial activities. It's also this kind of a tight network with close by actors, teachers, businesses, customers, all coming together. So it can also offer opportunities for kind of building these competencies. And then what we could do probably more of in formal education is to actually tighten the cooperation between the rural actors and helping the youth there to find local role models, and therefore also to kind of consider their future and not leave to have jobs elsewhere. So thank you. This is what I wanted to share, and then I have also the references here. Thank you very much.
That was great, Professor. Thank you very much for sharing those insights. It's great that you were able to also make connections with the earlier discussions at the event. We have time for a few questions, so if anyone would like to ask a question, now would be the time. Or reactions. Reactions are welcome as well. So we've got George sticking his hand up first. George, please go ahead, and followed by Karen.
First of all, sorry for the video. I have an issue with my camera after the panel, but I really enjoyed your presentation, Dr. Iti. What really stuck with me is that you connected this modern world of entrepreneurship with academia. You, at the same time, you mentioned the issues and the bubble that might exist there with Silicon Valley. In Greece, when people from the academia refer to entrepreneurship, they tend to refer to spin-offs and potentially one-time projects that they may run funded by the European Union. Those projects usually involve something very innovative, whether that's in software or in hardware, lately with robotics and so on. But they lack to these projects lack to expand further and don't ever hit the market. What is the situation in Finland with the University of Turku? What's the connection essentially between the market and the entrepreneurial mindset with those in academia and research?
Yeah, thank you for this question. I think it's a good one, and I think it's also kind of points towards this perhaps sometimes very narrow understanding of academic entrepreneurship and what it could be within the university. And I agree that this is often the case. So I mean, yes, there are certain researchers, certain academic entrepreneurs who are active in this spin-off activity, who are, and that there are a few success cases, but I would really emphasize that you know, every year that when we count the numbers, that they are like 5. So it's not like dozens and dozens of spin-offs. There are maybe 5, but then there's a lot of other types of academic entrepreneurship, and to me it would be also here at the university important to recognize the diversity and not only focus on the high tech. And again, I would perhaps pick up on this idea of social entrepreneurship or societal engagement, and there are very strong initiatives in our university that, for example, are looking at how future leadership can be developed to be biodiversity respectful. And to me, this is huge. This is really important, because if we change the thinking in companies, and to me this is also academic entrepreneurship. But thank you for the question. Yeah,
it's inspiring to hear that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll go to Karen next.
Oh, hi. Thank you for a very interesting summary of the research. And I couldn't agree more with your point that diversity is important. I remember having people like Klarna, who was an alumni from the SSE Business Lab, and people thought they were really good, but the one who had the most impact on the students was a girl who was reluctant to come. She was also an alumni, but she had a small accounting firm, and the students really reacted very well to her, especially the girls, because she was a girl and she made something. Her company was about doing something they already knew because they were into accounting. So I think, but I know that you are not only a researcher, you're also very heavily involved in practical entrepreneurship. So I was wondering, do you have any thoughts about, from your perspective, what we should do to enhance the visibility of role models that are, as you mentioned, into social entrepreneurship, or you know, like there are really successful entrepreneurs in the field of makeup over time. You have Estée Lauder, you have Helena Rubinstein, and all these women, and they are never visible as icons. So how do you have any ideas on that? Because I know that you're a practical woman also.
Yeah, well, thank you for this acknowledgement. I think first step is to build this kind of awareness across the teachers, across the kind of those who are involved in educational planning, because if we are not constantly on our toes and being alert, things start to ripple down. So I give an example. I was involved in a project where we kind of the idea was to develop a student incubator. And then, you know, I received an email. Oh, this is the brochure now. We need to get it to the printers. Can you kind of say, yes, it's okay, and then it will go. And then when I had opened the email and looked at the brochure, it was male students behind computers. And that was also only the visual imagery that was there. And I said, I'm sorry that we are in a rush, but I don't approve this. We cannot start promoting a student incubator for all students in the diverse disciplines and so forth by having this kind of images. And this is where I think it's really crucial that we are all on our toes and pay attention. I think this is the first step. Who do we invite into our classroom? What kind of wordings and verbs and images we can give in our curricula descriptions, in our extracurricular events, what kind of images we have. And if we kind of are able to kind of include diversity in all these, I think a lot of things will happen. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any last questions? We have 1 more minute.
I was just wondering, David, you know, if the role models are largely from the family and friends, you know, I'm not sure, but that seemed to be something that that you said. Is there something that policy can do, that government can do, to widen what role models, to give access to people who don't come from an entrepreneurial family, to role models?
Well, I mean, if I'm to answer that, I think we need to turn our eyes to education, because this is like where we can do a lot of things. If we start from the primary education, secondary, university, and if we have a diversity of role models going through, I think this is the kind of the best place then next to the family to offer this exposure to diversity of different kinds of role models for our pupils and students.
Perhaps, Professor, I have a quick follow-up. What about media? We have you know, well-known TV shows where you've got entrepreneurs pitching and getting investments. And you know, if you look back over the past decade, there have been radio programs in some countries and all kinds of videos on YouTube. How do you see that channel? You know, are there possibilities for government, or do they just sort of let the corporate sector and the business world control that space?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I fully agree. The media is offering these role models, but again, they are not necessarily, you know, the best ones that I would like to showcase. For example, in these really because I mean, what sells? It can be kind of these Dragon Den shows and so forth. So and there's for example a research paper that looks at, for example, the gender in these Dragon Den shows, and we might guess what the findings were. So actually the media as it is now, it is probably kind of, yes, it's offering role models, but not probably those that we would, or at least I would like to see. But I don't know how the government can influence that, other than perhaps coming up with alternative shows, but then the government would need to have the resources to broadcast them through the, yeah. So yeah, I fully agree, but maybe it's not so easy to influence the type of role models that we see there.
Okay, great. Thank you. I see that Karina has raised her hand. I think, Karina, did you have a question or comment?
Yes, thank you very much. I do have a comment. I just want to raise the attention to that we also need role models from the vocational education system. We often are stuck with the higher education students, and we think that it's really important for the role models from the vocational education system. I think that's really necessary. And if you are looking to if we want to have more business creation in areas, and maybe for girls or women too, we have to see to that we have role models even in going study on a vocational education, and after that starting a business creation. So just a heads up for the vocational education and the role models within that. Do you have any comments on that, Ulla? Do you?
No, I fully agree. I think this goes also to the diversity that we we need to, and yeah, so it doesn't make sense for the vocational educational institute to bring in kind of university graduate entrepreneurs, but to seek those perhaps even alumni to kind of bring in this closeness, this identification, kind of, and yeah, so absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, and we'll give the last question to Professor Linjen, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay, thank you, David. Hello, Ulla. Nice to meet you here and to hear you. Just very briefly to mention that it's important to have role models in all levels of education, even in primary, of course, with different roles, not to promote directly starting up in primary school, as you can imagine. But I think it is important to stress the role of the educational institutions and the teachers themselves to be aware that this diversity in role models is needed. Normally, most educators are not aware, about diversity of education in general, and if they are not aware about the need for diversity. So they try to find the easiest role models or the most successful, the most visible, the ones highlighted in the social media. And this is not what would be more effective for the students to influence their perceptions about entrepreneurship and about their own options as potential future entrepreneurs. So that was all. Just a brief comment.
Thank you very much. Professor, do you have any last words as a reaction to those last remarks, or just in general?
No. I mean, I fully agree. I think this is because this is exactly what happens. That if you are put on the spot and you are asked, who is the entrepreneur that I want to bring? So it's you are falling into these stereotypes. You are bringing who is closest by. So that's why I think it's, if there's one message from here, we should try to build the awareness of the teachers and the educational institutions about the diversity and need for diversity. So I fully agree. Yeah.
Okay, great. On that point, we can close this session. And so on behalf of everyone at the OECD and EU YEPA and all the participants, Professor, we thank you for your participation and contribution today. It was really valuable. We're grateful for that. So we're going to move into the last part of the workshop today in which we can break into two groups and keep the discussion going. And so we will encourage you to share your experience in your countries, to ask questions, participate as everybody has been doing so far in this workshop. So like I said, two groups. One will be with myself and Karen, and one will be with Julian and Kirsty. Remember Kirsty from Junior Achievement right at the beginning, so from JA Estonia. And they're going to help us get the conversation going, and then we'll keep it going for about half an hour and come back and wrap up at 1 o'clock so that we end on time. So Helen's going to push the button, and I'll see you in the room.
Didn't have the opportunity to speak or to share. I see Georgios, Anna, Mathilde, you have already spoken, but you're welcome to speak again. Well, anyone can certainly intervene. And when you take the floor, just if not known already, if you didn't speak before, or if you didn't have the opportunity to present yourself, just say what you are doing in your daily life and how you are connected to youth entrepreneurship. We have plenty of questions on which we can bounce back. I have noted the question of Jose Antonio Sanchez that was in the chat, but that were not addressed. Like it was about impact entrepreneurship for young entrepreneurs and role models. Could we have role impactors, if I may say, models of impactors, and should we have role models that are nicely fitting with the priorities of the countries? That was two important points I think that could be addressed. But first, Kirsty, please tell us what you have on your heart today for this informal discussion. Yes.
For this opportunity. I very much appreciated the Ulla Hütti's presentation, and I related with several points what she said, and also the role of education, because I also think that the biggest influences are the people closest to us, and let's say family members and parents. But I have a very nice story or example that the school and teachers and the opportunity to try out something in school can change the values and attitudes. One of our best most successful alumni, Sten Saar, who is a co-founder of one unicorn startup in London. He created a student company like 20 years ago in Estonian school, and the company was also quite successful. They got second place in our competition, and they were happy. And the teacher said afterwards that you are a born entrepreneur. Anyway, you could choose the entrepreneurial path in your life. But he answered that it's not sure, because his parents were civil servants, and he imagined himself always also going this path, not entrepreneurial path. So maybe the world has lost the great entrepreneur who is he now, if he didn't have this kind of opportunity in school to try it out, how it is to be an entrepreneur, and got an successful experience out of that. And I think that, yeah, we have talked a lot of about the role models, and in university level and in other, in ordinary life, and for young entrepreneurs and business circles, etc. But I think the earlier we get these children and young people, and with these role models, or different show them different opportunities for life, and different type of role models, the better, and the better choice they have later on in their lives. So because sometimes if they are not from entrepreneurial background, they even don't think to choose this path in the future. So I really think that it's important, yeah, to have these entrepreneurial courses, opportunities, real life experiences already in schools. Yeah, like company program, for example. And about entrepreneurship, to promote entrepreneurship, that it could provide also like false promises. It might, but I think it's still very important if the very successful entrepreneurs talk about, or the media covers their path, their journey. So to bring out also their journey, not only the way up, but the mistakes, the failures, the difficult parts, and show that it's possible to overcome. It's not just cheerfully we can overcome everything, but also this is the resilience, the persistence of the and successful entrepreneurs. And I think every successful entrepreneur has gone through very dark moments and very difficult moments. So it is a skill to overcome these issues.
Sure.
Also.
Yeah. That's nice. Many thanks for this. Before opening the floor to the others, I forgot to appoint someone as rapporteur. Who can do that? I turn to Ellen because Ellen knows the topic very well. No, but you're probably into techniques. To just because after the breakout session, we'll have a kind of wrap up. Well, I can do it if nobody's there. Okay, I will do that. So I will take notes while interviewing you. No, but so yes, any reaction from you guys on what Kirsty just said, or others? Well, I take 2 points from Kirsty. So first, the more you can try, the best, because indeed, if you never even consider to be an entrepreneur, if the school or the education doesn't offer you this opportunity, you will not consider it. And that was my case, honestly. Well, I don't think I'm a born entrepreneur, first. But second, it was never an option for me because my parents are not entrepreneurs. I studied law. Well, I could be a lawyer in a law firm. It's kind of self-employed, but not an entrepreneur as we look today. So first point, like, okay, the better you can try, the earlier you can try, the best. And second, about false promises and failures. Yes, I understand that there are risks. I'm a bit like Kirsty. Yes, there are risks, but for me, this sounds like a life experience, and better that your failure is in a project, professional one, that you knew from advance that it has a risk to fail, that in another area. Well, that's my personal view. But any reaction on these 2 points on others, welcome to you. Please don't hesitate. Yes. For instance, Mathilde, I know that you have some insight on that. Anna, as we didn't have the chance to hear you so far in this huge webinar, probably you, if it's okay with you, you could present yourself and give a bit your impression on these 2 points and others. Aina, but I was also meaning Anna Goreka. But please go ahead, both of you. You want to start,
Absolutely.
Aina?
No, I think ladies have hands up, so probably.
I don't see the hands. Sorry.
Matilda and Lucia have hands up. They raised immediately.
Yes. Sorry, I have to. Well, you see, I'm already a boomer. No, Matilde and Lucia, and then Aina and Anna. Okay, please go ahead, Matilde. I take notes.
Sorry, I know I talked already before, so
Never
want
mind.
some space as well. But I really like the mention of like fear and failure. I'm French, and I know that in the French system, that fear of failure is very, very big. And also, when you choose your academic path, when you're a student, maybe it's very cultural. I'm sure it's not only in France, but there's this thing of like, when you choose, you only have one chance. You do this for the rest of your life. It's very difficult to see like to think a bit differently and think, listen, I can do this for a couple of a year, and then I can choose to do something else. I can be an entrepreneur. If it fails, it fails. I do something after. There's really like this like kind of like cultural barriers that a lot of students feel, and it's also like entrenched in like the whole curricular and the whole education system, and it makes being an entrepreneur not very relatable, because people are like, it's not relatable, it's not easy, it's not. So it's a good idea was indeed, for example, if you have, I don't know, a teacher who's teaching you, I don't know if you're in whatever university, but this teacher used to be an entrepreneur and he changed. So showing a little bit that also like failure, changing, other choices are possible. It's a very long-term thing because it takes a while, but it's very, very present in France. And I think it's the thing that makes students the most reluctant to start this path in the first place.
Would it be that there is a pressure from family and from society that you earn your life from day one after studies also?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In France, there's not even like, you know, the idea of a gap year is very new, while it's very present. I don't know if you go more in like the Anglo-Saxons or the US, the idea that you only have one chance. So obviously, like if your family and your like environment doesn't really understand what you're doing, doesn't understand why it's a bit of like difficult in the first years, if they don't understand, you don't really have like a support system around you. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's a negative circle that has to change. That can be brought by also education, like earlier in school. Because if you start already in university, this is already a bit late. But if you have this kind of like talk with family earlier in education, that can change already the mindset once they reach universities.
Thank you, Mathilde. Lucia?
Yeah, I totally agree with Mathilde, because in Italy, where I came from, is the same thing, exactly the same thing. We have most the same culture. But first of all, I will present myself. I'm Lucia. I come from Rome, but now I'm in Brussels because I'm part of Europe. That is the network of junior enterprises, and we are the umbrella organization of junior enterprises all across the Europe. We are in 16 countries and we have 35,000 junior enterprises all over the Europe. And we actually are trying to fill the gap between university, academia in general, and the world of work, and to give the possibility to everyone to know how to introduce themselves in the world of work, both on an entrepreneurial side and on like corporate side, let's say that, and also in public affairs. So we are trying to fill the gap and yes, teaching people to do that. We are a no-profit organization, obviously. So there are like these companies in every university that are just like little consultative companies that are doing this to little like companies too, and they are no profit. So all the money that they gain are reinvested in the workshops and in like going to events to meet people that can inspire us. So I think that they are really likely to the aim that we are talking about. And let me connect to the thing that you have said before. I think that a big issue for us to be future entrepreneurs is the fact that we see the entrepreneurs like genius. So you know that like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, for us, they are like genius. So we are not intelligent enough to afford that level. And actually, I'm just like a little girl from a little place near Rome. So how can I do that? And even if I'm talking about my entrepreneur, like, hey, my goals and all this stuff, with my parents, I actually remember one time when I talked about this with my mom, and I was like, yes, I want to open like a tech companies. I want to build a better future for the people. And she was like laughing at me, like literally laughing at me, because she was like, what? How can you do that? I mean, what are you thinking about? You're thinking that you are so smart to do that? You're not. Just like the people that are doing this are, have a lot of opportunities, and at the same time they are like genius. So you're not. And how you can do that? So basically this. And also about failure, I just want to say that you can do mistakes if you can do it on a financial level also. Because if you have a family that's behind you and that can support your failure, you can do it maybe also a lot of times. But if you don't have that, maybe I can have a failure in university. Maybe I can fix my failures like in this little period of time. But after that, my family is not capable to stays behind me, basically, because in my case, use an example. In my case, I will use an example. I did university at the same time, junior enterprises, and at the same time that didn't pay me. So I had to like pay myself things because my family can't afford that. So I also worked in a company, and I didn't have time to build my anything, my startup, anything, and because I didn't have the resources also, and the time also. So yes, I think that maybe I could try to do that, but was gonna pay the things to me when I could do the startup and all this type of things. So yes, I think that policy in this case is very, very important. The support of our nations and of Europe may be really important. Yeah.
On that aspect, and then probably Ellen can complement a bit. I know that in some countries you have employment bridge or something like that, like this kind of systems where you can still have unemployment benefits while you are trying to set up your own business. Is this the kind of thing you propose or you give information on in junior enterprise? And Ellen, I don't know if it was you drafting this part of the Missing Entrepreneur last section, but yes, Lucia first. Or Lucia, yes.
No, we don't have that, I think, in Italy.
Okay.
So yes, I don't think we have that actually. But
So,
if we have that, I don't know. So
no, but in your association of junior enterprise, what do you advise to people being in that situation, precisely having finished university, being under the pressure to earn its life, and that was also my case, but I had no dream of being an entrepreneur. So, and what would be your advice?
to the people that are university like me.
Yeah, and that they want to become entrepreneur, but they don't have this financial bridge to lose 1 year. Let's put it like that. And I see that Mathilde has put something in the chat. Yeah.
Yes, I suggest like in junior enterprises, we have the possibilities to meet the people like you and be in this type of environment where you can meet people that actually can give you some financial advices and also can give you the opportunities to do like stage or part-time jobs. So in the part-time jobs, you can also do like other things, like trying to build your own company. And yes, I think that junior enterprises are really helpful for that. But I think that it's needed our government help.
Yeah, I guess so. I turn to Mathilde because Mathilde has probably something to explain. In my own country, I should know the status of student entrepreneur. Please go ahead, Mathilde.
Yes, there's in Belgium, I don't know if it exists somewhere else actually, but it should probably be replicated. But in Belgium, you have the status of like student entrepreneur. So this is for students who are enrolled in university who wants to also on the side like create and like work on their own business. And it's like it gives you like a tax advantage if I remember well. And you pay for like the social security like a normal entrepreneurs, but you are still a student and you have some like advantage, fiscal advantage as well. So I think that could be like it's a great kind of like a flexible, because it's all about flexibility. So it's a flexible kind of like thing to provide to young people who are still in university and like want to start. So yeah, that's.
Thank you.
Just to jump in. So we do see a lot of countries actually adopting the student entrepreneur. So it exists in France as well. And it's integrated in part of their university that you can choose to be a student entrepreneur and you receive incubation and mentorship and networking support while doing that. Some countries also give tax breaks, social security payments are not necessary for the first year or 2 years, and it normally gradually ramps up as the student leaves university and the business is off the ground. So we normally see these policies being over a course of 3 to 5 years with different levels. So it is newer, but there are several examples in the EU of countries adopting it. Yeah, and I thought, oh, does someone else want to come in?
Yeah, me, but please finish up.
Go for it. No, go for it.
Yeah, also in Latvia, I know that in universities already for quite several years are student innovation grant program, which means the students who are interested in creating innovative products or ideas, they can apply for this program. They are even given kind of support in form of money just because they participate, and they have to attend workshops, meetings with industry representatives, and gradually they create their product or product in a team. So basically, this supports university spin-offs being created. So it's there. But I wanted to raise another question. How to activate those students or those young people who never apply for these programs? Because what we have seen from our experience, there is a share of young people who are always active, participating everywhere on parallel. They are probably academically bright or close to that, and they are everywhere, and they are on parallel in junior achievement, in future heroes, in where not. But there's a huge share of young people who never apply anywhere, and then they say we didn't have opportunities, but opportunities are there. That's my question, and we have been thinking a lot about this. So how to activate those young people?
That's a fair question. I don't have the answers, but probably others in the audience do have, and I see that George has probably an element. Yeah, please go ahead, George.
I would say that I'm in a exact situation. I participate in many community events, always trying to connect with people. There is so from my point of view, there is definitely a lack of motivation or lack of something that that pushes you to go from learning all those things to actually going and implementing them. For example, creating a business or something like this. That's a reason why many successful entrepreneurs recommend just to get started and see how it goes. When it comes to opportunities and so on, well, although there are many opportunities, I believe the ones, maybe for example, we could talk about job opportunities or someone hiring you as an entrepreneur to provide your services. Although people nowadays say that they are open to it, in Greece, not only for young entrepreneurs, but also mature entrepreneurs, although people are open to it, in the end, they want you to find very specific criteria that they think are ideal. So although they say that there are opportunities, and we are open to collaborations, in the end, they make it very hard for things to work together. What else I could add? Of course, there is what I would say also, maybe I could reiterate what Lucia mentioned before regarding the team. It would be a great starting point if those students could get connected with each other and create teams together. Because this is like a bridge between, I'm in the starting point, and the other side, which is, I'm selling services, I'm building my own business. And I think this bridge lies not in the guides, in the resources, but in the team.
Excellent. Okay. Thanks, George. I think we can have still one word from Kirsty, and I guess afterwards, Ellen, we have to switch back to the plenary.
I think we have a few more minutes. We can try to.
Great. So we can also have Lucia. Kirsty first, please go ahead.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with Aina. There are very active people and not so active people. But I'm coming from a school system, and so school system is a compulsory system. If it's compulsory subject in school, for example, entrepreneurship, then it might be not the favorite thing for students, but they still should do it to get the points. And sometimes during the process, they get this inspiration and motivation and see that it is nice thing to do. And also in universities, I think today's students are so overloaded with all the work and studies, etc. So if they get maybe points attending also some incubators or creating something, their own startup, or even school startup, university startup, then if I get additional study points also, then it might be motivational for them also.
To make it compulsory to a certain extent, yes.
Yeah.
I understand. So everybody would be concerned. Lucia?
Yes, I completely agree, because in my university, we made like a compulsory project when everyone has to participate. So all of the people were very excited actually after, because we had like 3 or 4 projects in a row. So the first one, everyone was annoyed by it. But after the second one, there was also like a competitive environment, and everyone was excited to present their ideas. At the same time, I wanted to answer to Hen that like mentioned the programs like the incubator that are in universities and things like that. And we also have a sort of program that is like that in my university. But honestly, like most of my colleagues in university and also me in person, I do a lot of do other things, so that's fair. But the people that maybe are only in the university, they are only studying, they are very, very afraid to lose their time, actually.
Mm.
And also me, I don't have time to do that because, as I told you before, to afford my life, I have to do a lot of different things. So they see these opportunities like waste of their time, because society told us that we have to have a degree in time, and this is the main goal. So they're afraid that if they are doing something else, they're doing like nothing real and concrete for their future. So maybe if there are like financial sustainable projects when they are paid to like building ideas or something like that, or they will think that their time is not wasted. But I also think that that's a cultural thing, as we said before, so we have to change that.
No, absolutely. I mean, I'm from the United States, so culturally we have a very different approach to entrepreneurship and the curriculum. But it was interesting when we're talking about integrating entrepreneurship and opportunities into the university education itself. At my university, they actually brought back alumni and had, as part of the course, teams of students had to present and pitch business ideas. And so it was actually made concrete because by inviting successful business people that had attended the university to come back, several of these actually received investment, and they were sent to New York to pitch their ideas, and actually were implemented in several cases. So those are also ways that it's compulsory to be part of the class. It's a class project that actually has implications and can turn into businesses. But I think it's really important to bring role models or people back into the system. Mark Cuban, for example, went to my university and he's often seen around campus. So whether people interact, whether students have the opportunity to meet with him, they see him attending basketball games, they see him walking around, and they know he was once a student walking in my shoes as well. And so there's, again, those opportunities to use role models to show the way and open the doors and create opportunities for young people to explore. But I do think, I'm sorry, I think I took the last minute for our breakout group, so we might need to transition back now. But thank you so much for a really great conversation with a lot of ideas. So we'll maybe transition now. I'm sorry, Julian.
No, yes, please go ahead. That was nice. See you in the plenary.
See you. Hello again. I think the other group is just making their way back to us as well. There we go. It looks like the other group is joining us. We have about 2 minutes to wrap up today's workshop. So perhaps we can hear briefly some of the topics that were discussed from the different rapporteurs of each group. For
I can start very quickly, Ellen, if you want. So very shortly, it started with the intervention of Kirsty, and two topics were brought forward. It was first, if you have no role model of entrepreneurs, if your parents and your family don't have entrepreneurs, school is really the right place, or university is the right place to try. Otherwise, you will never know if you are gifted for that or no. And then, and this is the topic we spend a lot of time on, is the issue of failure, the risk of failure, the fear of failure, and how do you overcome this fear? And the topic we start discussing about how can we ensure some financial viability after university in the time you process your ID for setting up a business. And we have several pistes, several possible solutions, but there is still work to do, undoubtedly. That was for our group. Thank you, David.
Great, thank you. So in our group, we covered similar ground. I think the 2 points I would make is that the discussion underlined the need to not only have inspirational role models, but also more realistic role models so that people can actually see themselves doing the activity. And we had examples both from education and schools, as well as programs such as microfinance. And the power of some of these programs to sort of empower communities by showcasing the success stories coming out of the communities can help bring other people along with them. So that was one point that I took out of the discussion. And then the other one was an interesting one, which is that, you know, in considering how young people are exposed to entrepreneurship, perhaps we need to remember that it's not only about business creation, but can also be about other types of activities, different types of organizations, social entrepreneurship, as well as sort of the behavioral aspect, entrepreneurial behavior and attitudes that can be beneficial to people in all activities in work or volunteer work. And so perhaps that calls for a broader scope, an even broader scope of role models than what we've been talking about. So those are some of the points. So we're now at 101. So we're going to quickly wrap up this workshop. I would like to thank all of the speakers today, all of the panelists. I'd like to thank Kirsty for co-hosting the event with us. And it was a really great, very discussive session, which we very much happy to see. I think we all seem to have learned a lot. And so the next step is that we're going to be updating the discussion note to try to pick up some of these points from the discussion. And we will be in touch about workshop number 5, which we are anticipating to be probably before the end of the year. So we will communicate details about that in due course, but quite quickly. And then just a last point to reiterate some of the messages from the very beginning. You will remember that workshop 4 is one that the groups picked. So they're all on different topics. And even though we're here together in our groups, you're certainly welcome to go to the other workshops if you're interested in the other topics. There's one tomorrow on AI, and there's one, I think it's next Thursday, on networks. So you can find all of the information, including the registration links, on the YEPA website. That's one point. Second is a quick reminder about the bonus activities, the side events. You're all welcome to participate in those, but again, no obligation. And then just the final word is that it was great to see all of you. Great to meet you, and glad you got to interact. But we're now at workshop 4. And so the idea is that we once again mix up the groups. And so for workshop 5 and 6, you'll hopefully get to meet some new people from other countries. So there we are, 103. We're going to cut it off here. And I wish you all a great rest of the day. And we will be in touch with the updated note and more information about other opportunities. Thanks very much for a great session.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you for a great session. Bye.